Welcome to Sow Chatty. I'm Claire. I knew I was going to do that one time.
I've got to leave that in.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Start again.
Welcome to Sow Chatty. I'm Kerry from Dog on the Plot.
And I'm Claire from the Farmyard Garden. Hello, Kerry.
Hello, Claire. So, did you do what you promised at the end of last week's episode, which I believe was to do some clearing up?
I did. I mean, I didn't do as much as I really wanted to do because once you get started, there is loads, isn't there? But yep, I cleared out the sunflowers and quite a bit of the foliage. I was quite optimistic at the start of last week's Sow Chatty episode where I said that I didn't think that much had been damaged by the frost. But unfortunately, as the week went on, things were showing their sort of delayed reaction to the frost. So yeah, there was quite a bit of clearing to do. And it's really sad when you get started because it really is the end of the season, isn't it? But actually, it's really nice to start seeing things a bit tidier. I think you get to a stage where you want to keep hold of it and then it's gone too far and it looks so untidy that actually it's a relief to clear it away. What about you? What was at the end of the episode last week? I can't remember what you
I was going to say, I bet you don't remember.
I don't.
I think I said that I was going to sort out my brassica seedlings, which I did do. Yeah, I pricked out the broccolini, whatever it's called. Pricked that out and they look fine. So they're in their own little cells now. Do we have enough time? I don't know. But I was thinking last year, I severely abused those poor brassicas last year, and with the move to the new plot they didn't get into the ground until super late, and I still had that wonderful harvest in May. So I'm optimistic that these will pull through and be okay. What I didn't get to do was put the beetroot in the ground, which was one of the things that I said I was going to do. They're still sitting in their little cells, Claire. Poor things. I'm doing exactly what you said I always do, which is just leave things in their cells for far too long. But I tell you what I did do, and you will be proud of me for this. I actually got around to pruning the cherry and the plum tree.
No.
I've done it.
Amazing. Are we going to be seeing that in your video this week?
Not for long, because I'm always of the mind that pruning is really boring content. I know other people disagree, but I always try and keep the pruning to a bit of a minimum. But so I do a quick prune round, which you can do with the Pronarbos. It makes the whole job very quick. So yes.
Yeah. A quick prune doesn't necessarily mean a gentle prune, though, does it?
No.
And actually, Kerry, I'm totally butting in here, but I've just seen you take a sip of your drink, and look what we've done. Look at that. As if by magic.
I wonder where these mugs are from, that we would both have the same one.
I think mine was a Christmas present from somebody.
I think it might be Home Bargains.
That sounds about right. I like it.
I like this mug. What have you got in there? Coffee?
Well, it's the usual, isn't it? I just have a black coffee, don't I? It is at least warm this week, though. What's in yours, then? Is yours fennel?
No, my usual, like when I'm not picking stuff from the garden, is jasmine green tea. That's what I like to drink normally. It was funny, actually, because the family was around this week, and I was making a vegan fish finger sandwich, and I said, I need some greenery to put on here. And Francis was here, my nephew, and he's like, oh, here we go. And because off we go into the garden to try and pick some things. And I remember he was off school once and I was looking after him and we were making lunch and was like, right, off in the garden. And we picked flowers and we picked all these different kinds of leaves. And he went home to his mum and she's like, did you have lunch at Kerry's? He's like, well, we had all these bits and pieces from the garden, flowers and things. So yeah,
that's funny.
But yes, that's my jasmine green tea.
Lovely.
So mugs, I guess we're straight into our hot or not then for this week, Claire. So what is your hot for this week?
Well, I can't not mention, because I have washed them, the Clancy potato. So anyone that watched my video on Sunday will know that I've been growing from seed sent by Robin at Robin Gardens all the way from America, some Clancy seed potatoes. Well, no, Clancy potato seed, should I say. See, we're so used to saying seed potatoes, it doesn't roll off the tongue the other way around. So these are not seed potatoes, if anyone's unfamiliar with this. These are actual, genuine, teeny tiny seeds. And they were ready to harvest this week. And I have washed a couple and I have them on the desk in front of me because you'd mentioned, Kerry, that there was quite a bit of variety in the colours of them. And actually that is quite common. So these are some of the Clancy seed potatoes. I mean, they're obviously not huge potatoes, but they've dried quite a bit. I think they were about to start with scab because, I mean, that's beautiful underneath there, but the majority of it isn't quite as pretty in the skin. And then this one here is one of the lighter ones that you'd seen. And actually now having seen them, I think they're just not as mature. There is redness there to the skin, but the skin is very, very thin there, whereas these are a lot of a thicker skin on them. So that's my hot this week, that I grew these potatoes from actual seeds. And they are an F1, so technically I shouldn't try to use those as seed potatoes, I guess, for next year. But what the hell, Kerry? I'm going to take a leaf out of your book and I'm going to save a few and I'm going to plant them. And they're going to be potatoes, whether they look like those or not. They're going to be potatoes, aren't they? So I'm going to be keeping some back and seeing what happens for next year.
And I suppose you don't have the problem with like saving squash or cucumber type seeds and then worrying that the offspring might be toxic. In this case, that's not going to be the case with a potato. But I think we should just stress what an achievement this is to grow those from seed, because you said those were teeny tiny seed. I mean, they were invisible seed. Like it was in this powder, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was like talcum powder, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And I honestly didn't see any seeds, but I just stuck them in some soil. And I can't remember how many people Robin sent these seeds to. You had them, didn't you?
Mm-hmm.
And I know a few others did, but I don't know anyone else that managed to get any plants to germinate or seeds to germinate. And I'm not trying to big myself up by saying that, but I didn't expect it either. So I am actually genuinely thrilled to have gotten some return on them for poor Robin that sent these rather expensive seeds airmail to the UK.
Bless her, because I think she wanted to do a whole collab video on it, but she'll only feature you, Claire. But if anyone was going to do it, it was you.
Oh, thank you.
It
was quite funny.
And you only got 2 plants, though. From the whole packet, you only got 2.
Yeah.
Honestly, when I put mine on the seed tray, it was just powder. And I think I probably felt that there weren't any seeds within it. And therefore, I didn't probably give it enough attention.
Yeah.
And maybe something would have come if I had babied it a little bit more. But it's a shame because, as you say, poor Robin. I did really send them out to everyone.
It was fascinating. And I had a couple of comments to my video where people thought that you wouldn't get seed potatoes this year, that you would take 2 years, that you would be growing something this year to be the seed for next year. But I'm not quite sure. I mean, I understand with the garlic cloves, like elephant garlic, you get the baubles and then, a whole bulb, the monobulb, and then they split eventually afterwards. But with potatoes, I mean, if I was going to get a seed potato to plant for the next year, I was going to get potatoes, wasn't I? So, to me, I knew that there was going to be a crop in the first year. But yeah, I am delighted. And talking about it be typically me, when I messaged Robin to show her a picture of these, she said that they were quite big potatoes. Typically, they are very teeny tiny potatoes, so that actually I'd done even better than I thought that I'd done with them. So I am absolutely delighted. So yeah, if you're watching, Robin, thank you very much for the seeds.
And had Robin had success?
Do you know what? I was all me, Kerry. Did I ask Robin if she'd had any success? I don't think I did. How did you get on with them, Robin? Oh dear.
Have you tasted them yet, Claire? That was the other thing I was going to ask.
No.
Okay. We'll save that to next week then.
No, we haven't actually gotten around to having a cooked dinner since then with everything that's going on in the home life. But what we were having what we have earmarked for tonight actually is going to have a lot of gravy on it, unfortunately. And I don't want to just mash them and hide them in gravy. I want them more of a salady type potato. So I will eat them. In fact, I'll probably just boil a few just to taste them on their own, because I'm interested to know whether they turn to mush in the water or whether they retain their sort of firmness and texture, which is why I love Charlottes, because they hold their shape and they stay like a proper potato. Those King Edwards. I love the potatoes. They look beautiful, but they just turn to complete not a mush in the water. So I won't
I've
be
got
growing
King
those
Edwards
again.
this year.
Sorry, Kerry.
Yeah.
Sorry.
But I tend to do roast or chips and things. It's rare that I fuss about with mash.
Yeah. Well, I don't want to mash them. I wanted boiled potatoes, but they turned to mash, watery mash in the water when I was boiling them. So yeah. Well, I think I steamed them actually in the microwave. But anyway, no. What's hot?
My hot. Well, I was struggling a little bit with this one because I know I said last week, and when you were saying at the beginning about that point at which your plot just starts to tip over into absolute messiness. And of course, I did a plot tour last week, and I'm teetering on the edge. You know, there's still a lot of beauty. There's still loads to harvest, but it's definitely looking a little bit worse for wear. So I'm going to have to be doing some tidying. But I think I said last week that my plot and its abundance was still my hot. So I was struggling to think of something a bit different. And I've just come home from Derby, just opened up all the back of the garden. And I noticed something which I had spotted a couple of days ago when I put the washing out, and it was a bulb that had come up. And I'm like, can this be? Will this be? And now I've discovered that it is, in fact, a nerine, baby pink nerine.
I don't know what that is. I'm going to need a picture, Kerry.
Well, I shall take some footage and we can overlay it. But it's like an amaryllis. It's very similar looking to an amaryllis. And I have planted nerine bulbs, I think, every year in the hope of getting one, because there's somebody around the corner from me who has a whole patch, and they are a bright Barbie pink. This is a soft pink that I've got, but they're really striking. And of course, they're coming out at a time when you haven't got that kind of color necessarily coming out fresh and new. So I've just got one. It's not in the best place at all. I'm pretty sure it's not where I planted it, which will lead me to my knot in a moment. But yeah, it's flowering and it looks beautiful. And it was so nice to come out into the garden and see something new, you know? And
wow.
So I'm pretty happy with that. But that leads me to my knot, because we are getting into the time of planting bulbs. And we know one of the difficulties with planting bulbs is that they can often be dug up and replanted elsewhere by naughty little squirrels. And I came home, I opened up the back of the garden, and some people may know from my videos that I have a whole tray of pots of plants at the very front of my garden, which are all supposed to be in the ground by now, but I'm, you know, they're just sitting there waiting for their time.
You have your own sad shelf, don't you?
It really is. And most of those plants are from the sad shelf anyway, so they're just getting sadder. Anyway, they were all sitting there, and pretty much all the plants have been turfed out of all the pots by the squirrels. No. In particular, do you remember me buying this one, Claire?
I do.
I think it was before we went to David Austin, wasn't it?
It was, wasn't it?
At that garden centre. And it was a really beautiful, unusual lavender that is variegated leaf. And it'd been sitting, this was actually not even on the floor, it was up on the chair. And when I got back, there's the poor plant.
Oh, Kerry.
It had just, the squirrel had just taken it right out of the pot. Now, this bit is still alive.
Yes.
So I'm going to cut it, and I'm going to root it, and I'm going to hope that I can save my very pretty lavender. The variety is called Merlot, Merlo. Merlot.
It was beautiful.
Cream and green variegated foliage. Yeah, and it smells just like lavender, and it was very pretty, and it's meant to have the lovely blue flowers, but yeah, instead I've got that from the squirrel. I love all animals, Claire, as you know.
I do.
And I would not like to deter the squirrels from my garden, but I would prefer that they'd left my plants in their pots.
It would be nice.
So what's your knot?
I guess, again, talking back to the frost, it will be no surprise for anyone to hear me talk about the squash plants, in particularly the courgettes and, oh, those patty pans. I'm absolutely devastated that I'm not going to have any more patty pans,
Oh,
Kerry.
really, Claire? Oh,
I am.
really?
I'm devastated, honestly. Honestly, I'm
I could
heartbroken,
not
truly
believe
heartbroken.
how many there were in that
Oh,
basket.
I have them. It's like they're dotted about everywhere around the house. Every room has got a tray with patty pans in them. Generally ones that, I mean, we've got carers coming to the house now, and I've left them in our hallway. Like, take them if you want them. Not a single one has been taken, strangely
I,
enough. I even
well, they're
put a
not
little
something you
note
would
up.
see in the shop.
Well,
So people
no, but
don't know
then
what to do with them.
well, that's what I thought. So then I put a little note in to say what they were in the hope that that would spur them on to thinking, oh, give that a go. I think it made them even more determined to leave them behind. So yeah, the squash plants, I've had to pull them out now. Well, just the patty pans, the courgettes are going as well. I'm really sad in one way because it's been so funny to talk about them and now they're gone. And you got me thinking last week, Kerry, as I was pulling these plants out and as I was putting yet another ton of them in a basket, and I'm thinking, do I really want to grow them next year? Do I need to grow patty pans? You really started me thinking because I love the look of them. But
But you
actually,
sent me the other way.
I know. Oh, you're going to grow them again now. Oh, Kerry. Well, if you're
No,
growing them, then I'm sure I will.
I can't remember if it was while we were talking or in the live when I was reading the comments. Oh, yes, it was in the live because I just cooked one. I was having a bit of a fry up when we were doing the live and I wasn't quite quick on the chat because I was trying to eat and say hello to everybody. But I decided to chop up a patty pan and just fry it in the pan and put it with the rest of the food. And as I was eating it, I was thinking, you know what? This is so much firmer than a courgette. Because I was thinking,
Oh, right. Yeah.
it's just a courgette and courgettes are easier to chop up. Why have a patty pan? Especially because the skin goes a little bit hard. But I had peeled this one and chopped it up because it was a little bit older. I was like, actually, this is really nice and it holds its shape better than a courgette would. And then last night I made, night before I made a curry at Liam's and I took these patty pans because I'm like, I've got to put them in stuff. I've got to use these patty pans. And I chopped that up for the curry. And again, it really held its shape in it. And then I was like, I think I'm going to be growing patty pans again
Well,
now.
there you go. There you go.
And you were right. They do look great.
They are. They are just so funky, aren't they? And I think, I mean, I probably will grow them next year because I just have this strong affinity to them. I've got the Beatrix Potter book that's got patty pan in the title. It's the something in the, is it the pie in the patty pan?
Oh, I don't know that one.
I'll put a picture over the screen now for people to look at. But I love I love Beatrix Potter. So I've always wanted to grow patty pans because of that anyway. So obviously now I have my own vegetable garden. That's an emotional attachment to me to patty pans, probably more an emotional attachment than one of eating them. But I think it's just the volume that we've had this year. So next year, remind me, Kerry, next year that I don't care how many germinate, how many I'll grow on so that I've got spares. I am only planting one. Whatever will be, will be.
I tell you what, then, I won't bother planting. You can just give me your spare plants. Sorted.
It'll be a custard white one, though, if that's okay with
that's
you.
Fine.
They're the only ones
Happy
I have.
With that?
Okay, well, there you go. Deal.
Okay, I'm not going to buy new seed for them anyway. I think I have got probably some seed left from this year. I would always think of patty pans as quite a modern vegetable, although I guess vegetables go in trends, don't they? I wouldn't have expected to find one in a Beatrix Potter book.
Yeah. It's the title of the book as well.
That's lovely.
Yeah, it's amazing. Yeah. So that is the reason why I bought them. And my sister bought me the book. So I knew about it. And then she bought me this book as a Christmas present. And it sounds like Duncan was a bit like, oh, a Beatrix Potter book? How old are you? But I was really emotional to see it because it just meant so much to me. It was the one thing that I was truly excited to be growing for the first season. So yeah, I do feel like I don't want to close that journey in some ways, but you did really spur on a thought, do I need them or not?
Well, that leads me into a nice segue to my show and tell, because this is another one where I've been on the fence about whether to grow or not. It's another kind of summer squash. So you did a thing where you moved across the screen last week. I'll
Yes.
go this way. Are you ready?
Yes. My word, that's enormous. Is
Let me
that your
see if I
biggest?
can. No, I don't think it is. This is the one that I took off. I'm putting it around my neck because when we had the allotment open day, one of the plot neighbours had grown quite a few tromboncinos. This is a tromboncino. They'd grown quite a few of them, and the kids bought them, and they had them round their neck, running up and down the plot, and then they drew faces and stuff on them and made them into snakes. So it was quite cool. But yeah, this is the one I harvested a little bit green for the horticultural show. Got me. Did this get first prize? I can't remember now if it got first or second, but it was definitely a prize winner. But I'm now holding on to it, so I haven't eaten it to cure, because you can eat tromboncinos young, like you would a courgette or a patty pan. But you can also hold on to them, cure them, and then the skin will turn hard, and you can use them through the winter. And they do last pretty well. Not quite as long as a pumpkin, but yeah, they will store quite well. And I have been on the fence about these because they don't taste as nice cured, I don't think. That's I would choose a butternut squash over a tromboncino any day of the week.
Well, that's what I was just going to ask you, was what did they taste like?
Yeah, they're just not, it's good texture. It's firmer than a courgette. And as firm as winter squash flesh if you've cured it. So there's nothing wrong with the texture of it. And again, it really nicely easy to chop because of the long neck. But yeah, not an awful lot of flavor, which has put me sort of on the fence about it. And then I thought, well, I'll just eat them young. But of course, I had so many patty pans that I was struggling to eat those. So I've left these to carry on. But yeah, this is the one I harvested earlier, but there's at least 3 more big ones on the plants.
Done.
I think I planted 2 this year.
And obviously your patty pans will store well as well, because I stored them well after Christmas last year. Oh yeah, they store really well. Well,
in the fridge?
I just left mine in a fruit basket in the kitchen, so they weren't even put anywhere cool or anything, and they just stored no problem whatsoever. And they hadn't cured on the stem. They hadn't browned off or anything, but yeah, they lasted way after Christmas. I mean, let's be honest, I'd put other stuff on top of them in the fruit basket. I'd forgotten that they were in the bottom of it. And I think Duncan had put a bit of post in there. An oven glove was in there too. I don't know how that appeared. And so, yeah, they kind of been forgotten about at the bottom of that basket. But I think we had one in March time and it was absolutely fine. Absolutely fine.
Definitely then my issue has been putting them in the fridge. Don't put them in the fridge then, because they're not lasting. You can see the skin is kind of, degrading while they're in the fridge. So I shall take them out, or at least the ones that I'm still harvesting, I'll leave on the side rather than put in the fridge.
I haven't put.
Because I would always put courgette in the fridge.
No, you see, I don't.
You don't put courgettes in the fridge?
No, but then I don't keep them that long. I mean, to be honest, my courgettes this year have all been marrows that wouldn't fit in the fridge. So they've had to stay out of the fridge.
I'll give it a go.
It'll be
What's
my
your show
fault.
and tell for this week, Claire?
Well, obviously, I've just realised that my show and tell we've already seen, because I've shown you the Clancy potatoes.
Oh, you had them both for your show and tell and your hot?
Well, I don't think they were really supposed to be my hot, were they? They were just supposed to be my show and tell. So I don't have anything for show and tell. But if I take something else out of the equation for the teasers for next week and bring it forward to show and tell, that's what I'll do. So my show and tell, because I've stolen these from my sister, is going to be a packet of onion seeds, because Jo sowed her onions really early last year and overwintered them, and she had the Senshui onions, and I am going to be doing the same. So this week, it's also a bit of a teaser. This week, I am going to be sowing the Japanese onions for overwintering. So I'm only showing and telling the seeds. She's bought them this year, packed in September 2025, it says.
I mean, for the sowing date, because I was thinking August for Japanese onions.
Well, I don't have my glasses.
Oh, gosh. Hold it up to the screen, I'll read it.
It says outdoor sowing, August to September.
Oh, okay.
But I'll be sowing them, obviously, in little seed trays, and I will be putting them in the greenhouses over winter.
So you
yeah,
won't put them out till spring?
I won't put them out till next spring, no, because
Okay.
that's what Jo did this year, and her onions were far in excess of mine. You know, they were the size of them, she had no failures. They were just beautiful, beautiful onions, and they looked amazing right when she planted them out as well. So that's what I'll be doing this week, sowing the onions.
Well, I'm putting that onto the teas a bit, Claire sowing onions, so we can keep you accountable. But I'm also going to add myself to that because I went to our little community seed library on the plot that my brother-in-law Mark built. It's still on our old plots. We didn't take it with us. And there is a plot neighbor, Maxine, and she puts in some great seeds into there. And she usually gives me a heads up on Instagram when she is popping them in. She's Vintage Plot on Instagram. And I think she put in some sensual onion seed. And I thought, and it was fresh. It was from Seedcraft, actually.
Brilliant.
And I thought, I'm going to do it because we were talking, I think, previously about onion seed and having to keep it fresh, which is probably why you thought I was asking about the packing date of it.
Yes.
But yeah, we've learnt this lesson, haven't we? So that's fresh seed. Okay, I'm going to do that with you, Claire. That'll be nice.
Excellent. Thank you.
So we'll follow those through as we go through our season of Sow Chatty, and we'll see how yours become these enormous onions and mine never germinate.
Well, actually, no, I think we'll just see what my sisters do, actually. It'll be hers. It'll be hers.
Well, luckily I have more show and tell, Claire, but this one's a quick one because I showed a tomato last week, which was my biggest tomato yet. It was the old German variety, and I believe it was 630 grams.
It was.
I think I'm remembering that correctly. Well, blown out the water by this bad boy. This is
enormous.
Flame. This is, well, it's 698 grams, but let's round it up. 700 grams of tomato there.
Wow.
And it's quite beautiful. Look at the little red bottom.
It is beautiful.
Yeah.
That is beautiful. You can see where it gets its name from. It really does look like a flame, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. It does. And I think I've still got one that might be larger than this. I think I've got a variety called Copper River that looks like it might beat this. So watch this space. But that was my quick one. I have one last one because I wanted to say thank you to everybody for all the birthday wishes last week, both in the live chat and then in the comments afterwards. It was really lovely. And I wanted to show one of the gifts that I got from my YouTube friends, which is a hoodie that says, "Let's root for each other." And it's lovely. It is lovely because that's what we do as our little group of female YouTube friends. We root for each other and we help each other. But also I think it was designed to speak to the fact that we had started Sow Chatty and that, that's what we're doing here, aren't we? We're supporting each other.
And the wider community, definitely, aren't we?
That's what I mean. Yeah, not just you and I. Everybody.
Oh, yeah. I just wanted to point out to everyone in the chat now that we're not just supporting you and I. We're supporting this whole community that we are building. And I mean, look how well we are building it. I'm blown away with how it's been received. I say it every week. I know it's probably getting old, but we just can't believe it, can we, how well it's doing?
Yeah.
So
it's because we're still a baby, aren't we? We're still a baby channel and we're growing, and it's very exciting. Well, it is. Growing partners and growing together is our main event for this week. But before we get to that, we better do our daft things. And I know you've got one because we saw it in your video on Sunday.
Yes. Yeah, I harvested some glasses. Don't know when I lost them, but I harvested a pair of glasses out of the courgette bed. I'm terrible for either. I took them in my top, or I just have them on my head. And so obviously at some point over summer, they've either fell off my head or out of my top when I was leaning over. And yeah, there they were. In fact, I think these are the ones.
Did you even know they were missing?
No, they're only cheap ones. I'm terrible. I don't go to the opticians. These are just cheap glasses, actually from Costco of all places. And it's a good job because I have to have so many of them because I keep losing them. If I ended up needing a prescription from the optician, it'd be an absolute nightmare to only have one pair of glasses or a couple of pairs of glasses. I can start the week with 6 pairs of glasses lined up next to me where I sit in the living room. And then by the end of the week, I've got none and I'm looking because I can't find any. So yeah, definitely Glad to have found them. Well, it did make me smile, though.
It's like usual that you we lose the hori all the time, or the
Absolutely.
secateurs, or whatever, but a pair of glasses is funny. I liked how you put it onto the patty pan as well.
I just felt it needed to be done.
That was good. That was good. Any other Daft things this week?
Well, the other daft thing is that obviously last week, the daft thing was that I had all these light spots in my face because it was sunny. And it is sunny again today. Don't you can see that it's bright at these windows next to me. But I have had to do a little bit of DIY this morning. If you look outside the door, Duncan phoned me and he went, "Why is there a piece of cardboard taped to the French doors?" That's me. And that's why I don't have light spots on my face in this week's episode. So that's my other daft thing.
It's very good.
What about
good
you?
work around.
Oh, you must have done something daft.
Well, always. But I did what I talked about daft a few weeks ago when I harvested too many tomatoes and had to lug them all home. Did exactly the same thing again this week. We had our apple day at the community orchard this week, and although I didn't get many apples while we were there because it was a little bit noisy and crowded, and they had like loud music and trampolines and food trucks and things.
So it's a huge event then?
Well, no, it's quite small. It's only a small park, but they had crammed these things on. And I don't know, is it just me? But I think an apple day should be like this whimsical experience, and it wasn't quite the vibe I was hoping for. We've had these apple days in the past and they're generally the same thing, but this year it just hit me different. They still did have the old fashioned cider press kind of thing, and they were making apple juices and there were apple juice tasting and things like that. So that was all lovely. But I went back afterwards when they'd cleared everything away, and the windfall, I mean, the ground was just covered in apples because people had been knocking them off while they were trying to collect them. And they were immaculate. So I just went round on the floor and picked all the apples when it was quiet and everybody else had gone. So anyway, I had a huge backpack full of apples. I went to the plot. I got loads of tomatoes, tried to walk all the way home with it all. And once more, felt it afterwards, had to get the arnica out. And then Liam took us on a 12-mile hike yesterday, which didn't help. So I'm feeling, but I had my massage this morning, and because I have a massage every sort of 4 weeks for my osteoarthritis and things. And it feels better now, Claire. I am a little spaced out though, because when you come back from your massage,
I feel like I'm sending you a message then with my top. Mine's it's a yoga top.
Breathe.
Breath. Well, it's breath, not breathe, but it's yes.
Okay. Yes. So that was nice. Anyway, that was all beside the point, because my Daft thing, which is really quite more of a funny thing, all the students are back last week. So it's back to full teaching load, and I was doing lots of icebreakers with the students, and I'd got students in tables and they were having to answer a series of questions that they all could all agree on. So it's like to get them to know each other and stuff. Yeah. And so it's like, what's a good beach read? And they all have to agree on a book and things. But one of them was, what's a podcast you would recommend? And every single table said So Chatty. Now, obviously, they had no knowledge of this other than me telling them that we had started a podcast, but they were on it. They knew. I was like, first all round, well done, students. Okay. Oh, any bargains this week, Claire?
Well, I haven't bought anything. I mean, I could drag these out again. The onion seeds. Bargainiferous because I stole them from my sister. They're the best bargains to have. But no, I haven't got any bargains. But Pammy from Garden of Whedon, and I don't think she'll mind me revealing this bargain now because she has safely squirreled away her batch of this bargain, is she's been buying some bags of topsoil from Wixies. They're reduced to £2.50. And they're also selling some peat-free compost as well. But that's not overly cheap for people that are buying it from allotment shops. But the topsoil is really, really fine. So if you want to have it in your, obviously it's for laying underneath lawns and things really, isn't it? But if you want to have it for carrot boxes, absolutely
I was just
perfect
thinking
for that.
Yeah.
So but that sale ends tomorrow. So that special offer reduced from £4 a bag to £2.50.
Wixies, did you say?
Wixies, yeah.
Yeah, okay. Good one. Yes, no, I've bought nothing this week. I've been really good because I was saying last week that the seed sales have all started, but so far Being very good, Claire. You know what's holding me back though is because I've got to look through all my seed folders and see what I actually need. And I need to do that soon because we have to put our king seed orders in before the end of October. So I need to sit down with my folders and the king seed catalogue and really make my decisions for next year. No new patty pans though. Okay, let's go to our main event for this week, which, as I said before, is about growing partners. I think we said last week, growing partners or not, ... but growing together or who we share our growing spaces with. So Claire, you've obviously got Duncan who helps you out sometimes. You've got your sister who has a plot next door to you. What's your experience of kind of growing together?
Well, me and Joe, we do more of the shopping for growing together than actually the growing together, because I tend to do most of my growing either in the day or in the week, because I tend to be editing my videos at a weekend on a Saturday ready for Sunday. So Joe visits on a Saturday so that she gets Sunday as a day of rest before back to work for her. And then she will pop over, usually on a Wednesday, not every Wednesday, but one day in the week she'll pop over if there's enough to do or it's not raining on the plot. And so I tend to not see that much of it as I did early on in the season. And I know that things have changed anyway, because obviously we're caring for my mother-in-law now, so I don't have as much outside time as I did. But yeah, we did a lot of the project. I think we'll spend more time together over winter when we're doing projects and we're helping each other, maybe, fill some beds up with compost and things like that. But it's more that we have a break from growing to chat together. Moving that bench where I have on the plot now, we just gravitate towards it. So it's not that we're actually physically growing together. We're just enjoying the moments between growing together more so. Now, Duncan, I don't think of him as a volunteer. I mean, I tell him that he's volunteered for jobs. He doesn't know it, but he's been volunteered for jobs. He is the unwilling helper in the garden. And he doesn't like doing any actual gardening stuff. But if it's big boy things and he can bring some tools in, which, we mentioned the prunabo last week. Duncan, if I say I need to chop something up with the prunabo, all of a sudden he's quite willing to help then. And it saves my fingers, so it's fine. But he's not into gardening in any way, shape or form. As close as he gets to gardening day to day is to walk in the polytunnel and snack on some tomatoes.
But he enjoys the produce, doesn't he? Because, like with the tomatoes, you don't eat the tomatoes. And he loves the sweet corn.
Yeah. Oh, gosh, yeah. He eats more vegetables than I do. I eat more vegetables in terms that I'll have vegetables more regularly than he does in the week. He eats more variety of vegetables than I do. And yeah, I don't like sweet corn. I don't like tomatoes. I don't like beetroot. And all these things he absolutely loves.
I didn't know you didn't like beetroot.
No.
Can I tempt you by a beetroot brownie, though?
Well, I think I'm going to have to try and make some. I'm going to have to try and make some. And actually, the way that you made beetroot brownies, I think is more appealing because you used the pulp, didn't you? Mm-hmm. Whereas when I've seen recipes before, you've grated beetroot into it, much like you would with a carrot cake. And I can see grated bits of beetroot in the end product. And that's enough to say no, thank you to me. But actually using it as a pulp, I think maybe I would be a bit more tempted. Obviously, I don't have a juicer, so I can't do that myself. But he would drink the beetroot juice. Oh, yeah.
Because you can cook it and then kind of mash it through there. I have a recipe for that, so yeah. Oh, well, that could be your show and tell for next week and show us your beetroot brownies.
Maybe. But it's nice. It's nice to have help, but I would say the majority of the time, I garden alone, really. I garden alone.
And you are not alone for that, because 53% of people on our poll said that they do it alone with absolutely no help. So there were a few people who said they had occasional help, but for the most part, it was people gardening alone. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think there was a flip side to this, because 69% of people said they did like a little bit of help when they needed it, but they didn't want any interference.
No.
And I hear that.
Yeah.
Because I do find there are certain things where I need help, like moving a greenhouse from one plot to another. You cannot do that alone. And I'm really lucky to have family on the plot who also have plots and are there and can help me when needed. Although I have had experiences in the past when the family hasn't been around, but I've needed to move something that's too heavy for me. If there's somebody on the plot, they will always help. You know, you just ask and they're always happy to help. So that's one of the nice things about growing in a community garden. So it's nice when you need it, but then you don't necessarily, because I think actually sharing a space with somebody and you both were working that space together. So it's not just a volunteer who comes in and helps now and then. That I think would be a lot more difficult for me. And I know, my cousin Becky, she commented, on our polls this week as well. And we've talked about this extensively in the past, like the garden is her hobby, you know, it's her thing. And so although she likes sharing the produce and feeding her family with the produce, she doesn't necessarily want them helping out in that space because they'll want to do things maybe differently than she would want to do them, or grow different things than she would want to grow. And I think it is a kind of escape as well. You know, it's her space.
It definitely is. And I think I feel a bit like that. And I think in some ways that's why I don't tend to do that much gardening when Joe's there, because I don't want to be interrupted when I am gardening. And I know that we'll want to talk to each other, or I can hear them in the background doing whatever they're doing. And I do like that peace. I think that my mind can sometimes be quite chaotic. So gardening gives me an inner peace. And I do want to be on my own doing it, I have to say. I think I would get a little bit, I wouldn't want someone planting out for me. Now, I've helped Joe last year this year, should I say, planting things out, namely those ginormous onions she grew. And I thought it was amazing that she let me do it, because I was quite happy to help her plant out. But I know that I wouldn't have wanted her to help me. And I'm thinking, am I selfish, or is it just that I enjoy that bit so much that I need that for myself? It's not, I don't know whether it's true selfishness or just self-care, really, that I need that bit for me.
I think there's some element of control there too, though, isn't there? My mum, bless her, she helps me out, but there are certain things, like when I had a big load of compost delivery, she helped me shovel the compost, and you know, I could not have done that all on my own. So wonderful. She will also weed, but I'm very nervous when she comes to me. I'm very thankful. And when I'm a bit like, though, like, only take it out if you really know it's a weed, because I'm growing weird stuff. And like we were talking about the salsify last week, and that looks like grass and things. And I remember, I think this was when I was away and she was watering the tomatoes in the greenhouse for me last year. And she pulled out, she thought it was bindweed, and it was my cinnamon yam from Real Seeds.
Oh, yes.
Which is meant to have these flowers that smell like cinnamon. I have never got my thing to flower, partly because she pulled it up that year, but it comes back every year. It's meant to have a root on it that you would need a digger to get out. So if I ever need to get that out, I'll have to ask for help. I'll have to ask Duncan to come down with the digger and dig it out for me.
He'd never leave, would he, with all those plots there? There'd be so many people wanting jobs doing. But like, you've moved there for a year now.
I've never seen a digger on our allotment before, but I have heard that there's like people are bringing them in, but I've never actually seen one. But yeah, so I think for me, I suspect for you, Claire, there's a control element to it as well. You know how you want things to be. And it's very nice for people to come in and offer help and stuff, but there's certain jobs that I'm happy for them to do, and certain jobs that I'm like, oh, no. I need to have full control over that.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Having said that, there was some lovely comments about people who do grow together. I think it was Rosemary talking about how she grows with her son, and that they have certain jobs that they're good at, and so they divvy things up that play to their kind of strengths. But I did think that was beautiful that you got that kind of intergenerational growing and things. And obviously we're experiencing that on the plot with Francis, my nephew, now getting really into the allotmenting and growing himself. So that's really nice as well.
And we have it with Emily as well, because obviously my niece grows with Joe. So talking about the arguments of who grows what and where, if you've got limited space and everyone wants to grow things, because Joe and Emily like very different things food wise. So Emily wants to grow things that Jo doesn't want on the plot because she doesn't like them. And so all my sister can think of is they've got very limited freezer space as well. So whose stuff's going to get the priority when you're eating different things? But they've made it work. And actually having the extension on the plot for them this year has really helped with that, because they're not vying over the same few beds now. They've got plenty of space between them to say, you can grow this, I can grow this. And yeah, and it's just the storage.
And do they tend to split the beds between them, or do they grow together? Do they make decisions together, plant together? Yeah. Because Mark and I could have done that with because we've got one big plot that we share, but we were like, divide it down the middle. Yeah. This is because we have such different ways of growing. It would never have worked for us to grow together. Having said that, he is coming around a bit more to my rather chaotic way of growing and growing things all together. And in fact, I think we had a question from Pammy about this, didn't we?
We did.
She was saying, do you prefer neat group plantings or going off piste and growing things all together and then reaping the benefits of like having the companion planting and things? I think you're a bit of both, really, aren't you, Claire? Because you do like things to look nice, but you have multiple crops in one bed often.
I do now. I didn't when I first started. And I think that was a huge mistake when I first started, that I genuinely thought, whether that's an agricultural thing because you would have fields of one crop, I don't know. But that was in my mind that, well, that bed's onions and that bed's this and that bed's the other. And obviously I still have that, because when it comes to onions, it will be a bed of onions. It is a bed of garlic for me. I don't put them in separate places because I like things that I group them because I like things that need to be put together and covered in the same way are planted together. So I don't mind having leeks in with onions or shallots in with them, or even, I mean, I'm quite happy to have some brassicas in with the onions, and I did that last year, because obviously they need the same level of cover. So a lot of my planting together is always due to that. But yeah, I like neat lines of things. It does make me feel happy, but also I don't need a whole bed of rows and rows of the same thing. I mean, I do have a whole bed of beetroot this year, and then have another half bed of beetroot this year. And well, beetroot's done
brownies
really well this year.
It's been a good beetroot year. Yeah, absolutely.
I like how you grow. I like to see when you walk around your garden, and Hugh Richards does the same, doesn't he, in his plots? I love to look at the way you grow things. But on the flip side of that, I struggle to remember to harvest things at the best of times, because I can't remember what I've got growing where or whether it's ready to be harvested. So if I'd got 10 plants, 10 things of the same thing in 10 different beds, I don't know whether I'd spot them all. The only chance I have of knowing that the cauliflowers are all ready at the same time is because they're in the same bed, and you can't miss the whole bed of them. And I still do. You know, I missed the Romanesco this year, didn't I? After waiting all year for it. So that's for me why I don't know. I think I'd struggle to find things. I understand the appeal, because when I watch your videos, you are effectively foraging in your own allotment. And there's something very nice about that as well. But I don't know whether it's for me.
Yeah. I think that's a really valid point about grouping things that need covering, because I did have a bed that was just garlic and onions, because I'd done that early before I figured out where everything was going to go. So that did all go in one bed together. And of course it got hit by allium leaf miner, and I didn't cover them, even though they were all in one bed. But as the planting went on, and I was planting little groups of things in all different beds, those things weren't so affected by that. And I had a lot of comments last week about when I was doing the plot tour, because I have got brassicas all over the shop, and I've got a couple of brassica cages up. Thank you, Claire.
Yeah. Yes.
And they've been protecting some, but others are just dotted all around. And people were surprised that they were doing so well, that they hadn't been got by cabbage white butterfly or by pigeons. Now, the whitefly had got them. Absolutely. They all covered in whitefly. But they're recovering from that now as the whitefly sort of goes off. And so, I think there definitely is something to keeping everything all muddled in together, because clearly the pigeons have not spotted those brassicas in everything else. I've got the thing of having onions around near carrots. So, and I haven't, crossed fingers for the carrots that I haven't pulled yet, but I haven't seen a lot of carrot root fly damage or anything like that. And there is that joy in going into your plot and being surprised, like, because you're kind of rooting around in between things and it's like, oh, there's a pumpkin. Didn't know it was there. It's obviously been quietly growing away and you suddenly find it. So there is something nice about that. I can appreciate though, Claire, with your, how many did you count? 46 beds you've got?
Something like that. Plus the, well, that's not including the things that are on the garden next to the greenhouses, and it doesn't include the polytunnel and the fruit cage.
Well,
so,
let's say
there's a lot
50
of beds.
plus.
Yeah.
That's a lot more to forage around, isn't it?
Yeah, it is a lot.
That's going to be a bit more difficult.
And, it's been overwhelming at times this year because especially when things had grown up, like the sunflowers and the things growing over the archways, that I could stand at one part of the garden and I couldn't see the end of it because I was just amongst this jungle. And even I was a bit like, I'm walking around thinking, oh, where am I going? Because it's, you're going in these paths and it just suddenly felt bigger. When everything got closed in with the structures, the plot seemed bigger. And I think one of the things about removing the sweet peas and the sunflowers off those around the two archways on that main path is that it suddenly opened the plot up again. I can see through the plot. And so all of a sudden, it doesn't feel as big anymore and it feels manageable. The space suddenly just feels smaller. And yet it's not, but it feels smaller. So, I think growing the way you do, I would be overfaced by where everything is, definitely. But, I'd like to move to that. And as you've pointed out, I have started putting groups of things in beds, but I don't know if I'll ever get quite as chaotic as you do. And I mean that in the nicest possible way.
Well, I don't think Mark will either, because we started this by saying that he was sort of inspired to try more of a polyculture in his beds, but he also he likes a line. He likes, and for people who have seen how he has developed his plot and the raised beds that he's put in there, it's very clear that he likes things quite regimented and set out in that way. I like symmetry. I really do. I like, because I designed my whole plot to have the greenhouse in the middle and everything is symmetrical on either side of it running down the central path of the plot.
Yeah.
But once I've got that design in place, then I'm quite happy to go a bit mad within it. So I think I've got sort of the best of both worlds in that sense.
Yeah.
Now, my partner, not gardening partner, definitely not gardening partner, my partner, I don't think he's even seen my new plot. So that's how disinterested he is in gardening. And I think I wanted to speak about this because I think this came up a lot in the comments that people had, that they might have a significant other who actually just really wasn't interested. And as we've spoken about before, there can be benefits to that because you don't have any interference. But also there's a sense that it can be hard to share what's, very, very meaningful to us as gardeners. Yeah. And I know that Liam can sometimes feel that I have spoken about gardening at length for perhaps too long. And when we go out for these hikes and things, I will name every single plant that I see as we're walking around, which isn't too bad when you're in the countryside. But if you go through a little village and people have got nice little front gardens, I will name every plant in that front garden. So he benefits from the produce and he loves that because he's very into organic produce and being healthy. So he absolutely loves it. I don't know that he loves that every piece of vegetable he eats comes with a whole context, a history, its growing, its variety, because he doesn't get to eat anything without a running commentary that goes alongside it. He's helped me out in the past when I've needed it with things like putting up the arches and stuff, which I know I can do and I've done in the past, but it's a pain. And he can do it so much quicker than I can. So he has helped out with little bits like that. But really, it's my hobby. It's quite separate from him. So you do need people that you can speak about gardening to that aren't your significant other.
You do.
Which is where you come in, Claire.
Well, yeah, definitely. And you for me. But gardening is on the scale that we're doing it at isn't just, it's a passion. It's more than just a bit of a hobby as well, isn't it? It is a passion. It's not just watering a couple of baskets in your back garden. And not that I'm saying there's anything wrong with that, because there isn't, but it is, there is more to it. It is a complete and utter journey throughout the season. Yeah, it is. It is. And so, yeah, we have to have gardening besties when we don't have gardening others that are interested in our chit chat about gardening all the time. I don't know about you with Liam, but if I'm talking about something in the garden, some seeds I'm going to buy or something I've seen someone growing, I want to grow those next year, I can see Duncan's eyes just glaze over. He's just not remotely interested, just not one bit. And, you know, then I think to myself, well, I'm not as interested when he starts talking about tech things and computer things and updates on websites, because he does he built like my Dogfield website. He's done our Sow Chatty website. And, you know, he does all of that kind of thing. And I'm not, it doesn't mean anything to me, and I'm not interested. And I guess then I should respect that that's how he feels about gardening. But I think it's hard for us because they want to eat the produce. And like, he's very keen when I bring something in, he's very keen at what I've got, that I kind of get a bit confused and think that also means that he's keen on the growing, but he's not. He's keen on the produce. He's not keen on the growing at all. Not at all. But he is grateful, and that's the main thing.
We had a bit of a thing this weekend because I had harvested some more Cape gooseberries, and I was trying to get him to eat the Cape gooseberries. And he's like, no, I don't like them. And I've read online that you shouldn't eat them. I'm like, what? And so all weekend I've been trying to make him eat these Cape gooseberries. And then it was only this morning that he said something like, he was trying to say physalis, but he said passiflora. I'm quite impressed that he could say he knew passiflora. And sorry, I didn't mean that to sound so. Anyway, but
it was a real name, is what you were impressed by. It was a real plant name, and it is proper name, not just passion flower.
I didn't mean to sound condescending. It was like I wouldn't have expected him to remember passiflora. Anyway, he was thinking back to about 10 years ago. This was in my old house, and I had a passiflora in the garden, and it made the fruits, the passion fruit. And we chopped it up and had it in porridge. It was not nice. And actually, most ornamental passifloras, you don't really eat the fruits. I don't think they're actually bad for you, but it wasn't that pleasant. Anyway, that's what he'd got mixed up. He thought the physalis was the passion fruit.
So you're taking some next weekend then?
Well, I said now you know, you can eat them. And he's like, no. He very much likes what he likes. So, so what we were saying is that if your significant other isn't so interested, you need a bestie, a gardening bestie to chat with. We are very lucky to have found each other, and we talk gardening almost 24/7. When we're not talking about that, we're talking about YouTube gardening. So we have each other. You have your sister. I have my cousin Becky. Yeah. We talk about gardening all the time. Obviously Mark, my sister, although she has got involved with the allotment now and has her flower bed, she is still very fed up with the only subject that I talk about being gardening. We went for a walk not long ago, and she says, could we talk about something else? Like, what else? What else is there? But for a lot of people who were answering our comments, this was the space where they found their gardening besties, not just Sow Chatty, but online, and watching other YouTubers, because motivation can be a big thing as well. We've all had moments where our kind of enthusiasm wanes a little bit when it becomes a little bit overwhelming. I think this time of year, once your harvests are in, I'm still in the harvesting bit, but a lot of people are coming to the end of the harvesting, and then it's all the clearing up to do. The enthusiasm can wane a little bit then.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And that's when you look to other people, and I think watching other people on YouTube, but also being able to interact with them in the comments and within lives like this makes a huge difference.
It's a huge community. And I know I've mentioned this before, but you know, I didn't make YouTube videos or didn't start making them to find a community. That happened. That was something, you know, an unexpected bonus. I mean, when anyone starts their YouTube journey, they don't particularly expect that many people are going to be watching their videos apart from family and friends that you've force-fed the link to. So, that building a community, building the channels to the size that we've built them is unexpected, and it has brought so many riches to us. And I'm not talking about AdSense revenue. I'm talking about the riches of friendship and the community, the motivation, and finding new things to grow. And I've mentioned this before, you with the Mashua from Mayu and the Ocker for me. I'd never heard of those things to grow. You don't see them in a shop. So being able to, just diversify your palette and broaden your horizons, gardening as well as what you put on the table in front of you, is just all because of YouTube. And, and social media is much maligned at times. And I know social media can be a harsh place for a lot of people, but generally in the gardening community, we don't find much of a negative side towards it at all, do we? It's such a warm and safe space to be in that I'm enjoying it, and it's brought so much to the plate, literally to the plate. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I think it's brilliant. And then when I think back to when I first started my garden, and I forgot to mention this, you just reminded me talking about Josie. When I first said I wanted to start growing my own vegetables, Jo ripped me to shreds. Honestly, she thought it was hilarious. Like, how old are you? I mean, this is the woman that now crochets, not me, her. But she tore strips off me for, to her, it was an old person's game, growing your own food. The old men had a vegetable garden and that was it. And then she started coming round, and she was obviously sick to death of hearing me talk about the garden. But then I started taking her onto the garden, because every time she popped in to see me, that's where I'd be. So she had no choice but to come and speak to me on the garden because I was outside. And then you'd give her some bits of vegetables, or she'd see it. And then she didn't actually show any signs of particular interest, but she took some produce. And then when it was her birthday last year, no, not last year, the year before now, wasn't it? In August, I bought her a veg trug and some seeds to grow patio planting things in her garden. And I thought, honestly, that she'd throw them back at me, because it was a bit of a half sarcastic gift kind of thing. And she was hooked, instantly hooked. And then as we were building our plot, she was like, oh, I wish I had somewhere to grow like this. And she'd put a name down for an allotment her and Emily had. And that's when it was, do you want to have some space out the back of my vegetable garden? She was working quite close to where we are. She doesn't live that close to me, but she works only about 5-6 minute drive away. So yeah, that's how it was all born. And it's funny to see the woman that tore strips off me, like really teased me over it, is now as invested emotionally, financially and physically as I am in growing. And it just has this ability, doesn't it? It becomes addictive. And until you start and grow your own and have some successes, I don't think you realize just how it's not a chore. People think that growing your own food is a chore. And I'm sure it probably is to some people. They don't see it as a joyful thing. It is work to them, isn't it? And I mean, obviously it is work, but to us it is a passion. And I love being able to share that. Me and my sister are probably closer now than at any point in our lives. We bickered like mad growing up, but we are closer now than at any point we've ever been because of this shared passion. And I love that. I have so much to be thankful for. I wish I'd done it years ago. Wish I'd started growing my own food years ago, because in the back of my mind, it's how long can I do it for? I'm not getting any younger. How long will I have the health and fitness to keep going? So,
yeah, you start thinking in seasons, don't you?
Yeah.
I think when you've
how many seasons have I got?
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see how my sister develops now that she's got her own section of plot, and she did flowers on it this year. And she surprised me actually how much she's been involved, because obviously Mark did all the sort of groundwork for it.
Yeah.
But then she's planted everything, she weeds it, and she's, coming down to the plot more often and things. And so, yeah, I'll be interested to see if she starts doing edibles next year and starts bringing those in. And then, like you're saying, with having something in common with your sister that brings you closer together, I felt that with Francis as well. I mean, his interests prior to this were like Lego and Minecraft, which are not things that I can get too involved with. But now that he's on the plot and growing, and not only growing, he's bought himself a tripod, and he's takes videos of hyperlapses of him doing it, like his Auntie Kerry. So we're kind of bonding over that as well, which is nice as he's sort of getting older. You mentioned Ocker and Mashua. I think that's a nice segue into our viewers' questions. And this was a question that actually came up on my video for this week, but I thought it was good for Sow Chatty. It's from Isabel, not your daughter. I suspect not your daughter, because she's not that interested in the growing, is she? No. Over time, Claire, over time.
Oh, she won't get dirty.
Perhaps you can get her an all-in-one thing. There's someone who gardens on our allotment and they wear an all-in-one like plastic overall thing. It's quite clever.
It's not bad.
So this was from Isabel, and it said, when would you dig up your Ocker and Mashua? Now, my response to this is, as long as you can, wait as long as you can bear to do it. What about you, Claire? When will you be digging up your Ocker?
Well, obviously, I was inspired by Kerry, the influencer. So I don't get mine up until it was, I'm sure, I can't remember if it was November or December last year. It was quite late. In fact, I seem to remember harvesting for Christmas dinner. So I must have done it late, some of them. So obviously you're not going to harvest it anyway until the foliage has completely turned to mush and rotted and died away because of the frost. And then even then you don't do it instantly, do you? Because those tubers continue to swell even after the foliage has died. In fact, I think that's when they put the most growth on, isn't it? After the foliage has died back. So I believe the rule of thumb is at least a couple of weeks after the foliage is completely dead. And it's not just going to be brown, it's going to almost disintegrate into the ground. It shocked me just how quick the ocker foliage does go back, doesn't it? And so, it's going to be November time, I think.
Taught you well there, Claire. No,
thank you.
Perfect answer. Yeah, absolutely. I have seen people harvest them a bit too early, and then you only get teeny tiny ones. And the best ones I've got are the ones that I've missed. And then later you see them resprouting, and you're like, oh, I've left some in there, and have a dig around, and get some really nice size ones then. The Mashua I will do at the same time as the Ocker, in part because it's in with it in one of the beds.
So yours grew then when you put them the right way up?
Yes. Oh, I like that you got that in there, Claire. I was just taking credit for the Ocker thing, and then like take you down a peg. Yes, I did make the mistake of growing my Mashua upside down.
Mine never did anything. And you know, they're probably upside down in the bed now, but I couldn't find them. I had a little dig around and I could not find them again. So they didn't do anything. I suppose if you'd seen
no foliage, then there wouldn't be anything.
But mine did look very dried up even when they arrived, didn't they, compared to what yours looked like. So to be honest, I don't particularly think mine were viable when I had them.
You planted direct, didn't you?
I did.
Whereas I did mine in pots, which wasn't my intention. And also I tried to chip them, and I won't do that again next year because they
don't
did nothing.
Chip, do they?
No. I'd read online that they would, but they didn't. I'll be interesting to see, because I know Mayu at Spuds and Roses grows Mashua every year, and she had huge roots last year that she dug up, and then she replanted them right away. The ones for the following year, I believe.
Have you had flowers on them?
No, and I haven't had flowers on the Ocker either, because I saw you mention that in your video.
Yeah,
which
not this year.
I hadn't realised until you said it, and I was like, oh yeah, no flowers this year. Too
Real
dry?
Beautiful little yellow flowers last year, weren't they? Yeah, I
am worried about the Ocker harvest this year because it has been so dry. But like you were saying, the tubers only swell later. So if the root system's okay, and we have had wet weather now. Yeah. Maybe we'll be okay.
Yeah, hopefully. Yeah. And I think for me as well, I planted so much of it this year. I almost did permaculture with Ocker, didn't I? I've got it in three different places around the garden now. So at the worst case scenario, one of them up on the very far side of the plot, I might just leave them in for next year, because I think I only planted 2 or 3 in there, and I might just leave them if we have a poor harvest to give them the best chance. But yeah, I'm hoping we'll get something. But to be fair, you don't need big ones, do you? You know, they can be teeny tiny little tubers, and they will be great seed tubers for following year. But fingers crossed, Kerry.
We've got time for one more question. Shall we have a look?
Yeah.
We've got, this was a good one. This was from a while ago. So sorry, Trude. I think she might have sent it to me on Instagram, which was why I missed it. But it said, how do you keep your hands clean and protected while gardening? And apologies if it wasn't Trude, because I had missed kind of where that one was put. I know. But if it was Trude, they were saying that their skin really cracks up and like really quite bad and painful. Now, I'm lucky and I haven't had that, but I do have terrible gardener's nails most of the time. Do you just accept that that's the way it is, Claire?
Well,
I do what I do. It is what it is.
I try to clean. Do you know, the only thing that cleans my fingernails is washing my hair. It's something about and as it's all falling out at the moment, that's probably why they're not so clean. But it's something about that does wash your fingernails. And I have to make sure that it's a hair wash day when I want to bake sourdough bread, because the thought of pulling the sourdough when I can't get my hands clean. But for Trude, I used to suffer over winter, especially with my hands being really chapped and cracked and really, really painful, especially when I was doing the horses over winter, because you're picking their feet out and getting mud off their legs and things like that. And do you know what? The single thing that cured me, and I've never had problems since, was buying a dishwasher. So it must have been constantly washing dishes throughout the day that was actually making the hands susceptible to, then when I went outside, the weather was affecting me more, because that's the only thing I ever changed. Nothing else changed in the routine that I did at home apart from buying the dishwasher. So it must be the dishwash soap or whatever.
The horseshoes in the dishwasher.
No, that's what you do with your stirrups and the horse bits. They go in the dishwasher. They go in there, but no. But yeah, well, I think it's interesting.
I haven't had a dishwasher that long, and I used to have really chapped hands, and I think you might be onto something, Claire, there. Have you ever done the thing, have you seen this online, where they talk about scraping your nails down a bar of soap before you go out and garden?
No. Is that to fill the
Yeah.
Genius.
I know, it is genius. And yet, have I done it? I must see this meme every week, and I've never put a bar of soap, because your bar of soap is up in the bathroom or whatever. So I need to put one like in the greenhouse or something. In greenhouse would be perfect, actually, because generally when I'm in the garden, I've got gloves on. So that's protecting my hands, although I have lots of holes in all my gloves. But it's when I'm seed sowing that my hands get really bad, because the seeds are so small and you're opening packets and you're writing labels, and it just gets a faff putting the gloves on and off again. So I do tend to just go in with the hands
I
there.
do the same. Yeah.
So I should try it. Just drag it down.
I never
the
thought
bar
about
of soap
that.
And it fills in.
Yeah, it fills in the gap onto your nail
And
beds.
then when you go to wash your hands, the soap is already there.
Yeah. That's genius. We're all going to be trying that now, aren't we?
Have you ever
had
the
soap go funny in the greenhouse, though? You know, the heat and the humidity, won't it get slimy? Won't it start melting? And
I'm going to say no. I think I'll be fine.
Okay. Well, we'll find out.
Have you ever had the gardener's, because you can buy gardener's hand cream, can't you? There's like a specific brand.
Is it Beekeepers?
No, because it wouldn't have beeswax in.
Oh, no,
I know
I
went to an Airbnb once, and nice toiletries and things, and they had this gardener's hand cream. I used loads of it while I was at this Airbnb.
The best thing that I've ever used for sore hands is Allotment. So obviously when we were a dairy farm, Allotment would go on the cows after milking, and it smells very much like a strong version of Dettol cream, if you've ever remember the Deck cream that used to make my knees sting when I was a wee girl. And it's honestly, you put it on your hands and your hands are on fire. It's the most painful thing to put on your hands, because obviously whatever's antiseptic in it. But by the next day, incredibly chapped hands are just baby smooth again. It's miracle. If you can leave it alone, because it's quite fiery when you put it on, I'm being dramatic. It stings. It stings a little bit. Then it's brilliant. And then the other hand cream that I like to use is actually probably not very environmental. It's a silicon-based hand cream, so it's the Norwegian formula. It comes in little tiny tubes, and that's brilliant stuff as well. But I have to be honest and say I've not had to use any of that since I've routinely used a dishwasher.
I'll be interested actually then to notice what my hands do over the winter, because I do remember in the past my hands have been quite bad, but not recently.
Yeah.
Good one. Okay. Teasers then. So you've already teased that you're going to be sowing onions and I'm going to join you. I think I'm also going to be canning my last batch of tomatoes. It's not last of the tomatoes because they are still coming. There are so many tomatoes, Claire. So many. But I have 7 jars left of my Kilner jars. I have 7 left. So I'm going to do one more batch of canning. And that will bring me up, I believe, to 32 jars of chopped tomatoes.
How
I've
many
only
would
done
you
chopped
use?
tomatoes.
How many would you
That's
normally
what I was
use?
trying to think over the year. I think that's ample.
Yeah.
I reckon I would use 1 a week.
See, I've still got some from last year.
Oh, canned? Or in the freezer?
No, canned from last year. And we haven't used anywhere near as many as I thought. But Isabel only really liked the later ones that I did after I'd bought the food mill because, you know, she would definitely not eat yours because she doesn't like the seeds in them. So when I bought the food mill and got all of the seeds out, she was eating those because I've made tomato soup that way as well. And she absolutely loves that. So I think that's why they're still there because I know that she won't particularly like what I make with them. But I would use that more in a bolognese type thing. But I said last week, didn't I? Or the week before? I'm not cooking like I was doing. So I still think even last year's canning things are going to get used more over winter. But I was rationing them in winter because I wanted them to last until next year or this year as it is now. So I don't think I'll ration quite the same way because I've realised that I genuinely don't particularly need or want to use them as much in the summer months anyway.
Well, let's put a pin in that because I think next week's episode, our main event, will be on preserving our produce and storing over winter. Since we're at the point of harvest and people are now going to be thinking about what they do with all this food that they're getting in.
So can I change my teasers then?
Go on.
Well, obviously, if we're going to do an episode on preserving, then I think I need to make my damson jam. I need to go and pick some sloes and start some sloe gin making. In actual fact, there's a big list coming now. And in actual fact, I don't know whether I need to make the sloe gin anymore because it's my daughter that loves sloe gin, my other daughter, Hannah. And she's just announced that she's expecting a baby in April next year. So, well, I could make it because she could have it for Christmas next year. It'll be super strong then, won't it? So I will still make it for her, but I'll tell her that I'll keep that one in the Kilner jar while she's keeping her little bun in the oven. So yeah, we're going to have a new grandchild next year. But yeah, I need to make this. So I'm going to make a start on the damson gin, the damson jam. Oh gosh, Claire, the damson gin, the damson jam. I'm going to do some canning as well. So
what did you do with all the damsons then? Because you had harvested them. Are they in the freezer?
Yes. So I've got 2 kilograms of pre-stoned damsons and they are in the freezer because it was just too chaotic at the time to be making damson jam. So I will get that done. And yeah, I'll do a bit of preserving. I think our show and tell next week needs to be on some of the things that we are keeping. Definitely.
Okay. Cool. I think I will be canning tomatoes in my video this week as well. If people are interested in that, let me know because I haven't filmed it yet. I'm also going to put my video out on Saturday next week rather than Thursday, just a heads up. Yeah, I'm going to spread out a little bit.
This week now?
Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
Did I say next week?
You did.
This week. On Saturday. I think I need a little bit of more of a gap between Sow Chatty and my video coming out. So I'm going to try Saturday mornings, which I think is what I started with when I first started putting out YouTube videos. I think I put them out on Saturday mornings. So we'll see how they do on that. So yeah, if people want to see some canning tomatoes, let me know and I'll put that in this week's video. I also need to tidy up my plot a bit. There's still lots going on. There's still lots to harvest and it's growing. So I'm not clearing, but it does need a bit of a tidy. Yeah, I've got like sunflowers that have fallen over and the flowers are all gone. Oh, that reminds me. Your sunflowers, your thing for last week was to make some little hammocks for the sunflower heads.
Yes.
Did you do that?
I have. I should have brought one in, shouldn't I? Yes, I have done that. I mean, some of them, I was quite surprised. There's me saying the birds can't get underneath and eat them, but clearly they have been, or the seeds have just been dropping out because some of them were quite empty. But yeah, I've made little hammocks and I've dotted them about. There's a couple I've left them on the archways because it did occur to me that if the birds have been coming to look for them and I've taken them away, will they find them if I move them somewhere?
Yeah.
I know they will, but I don't want to disappoint them if the cafe is closed. So I've put a menu out there and a full-on a la carte thing for them. So yeah, I have put some on the plot, but yeah, it's quite cute seeing them. I haven't managed to get any photos of birds on them yet, though, because I find that,
yeah.
you know, the amount of people that show videos of robins eating out of the hands, I don't see that ever being my reality.
With my heads, I just tend to leave a bit of stalk on and just shove it in a tree.
And that would work
in a
anyway,
branch.
wouldn't it? I mean, don't get me wrong, I am not a macrame. Is it macrame? Is that what they're called?
Macarami?
Macrame, that's it. The hammocky things that you can put pots in. Yeah, we're nothing like that. I'm going to say it's a very agricultural version with a bit of baler twine, but they're up anyway. They are up.
Well, as always, Claire, lovely speaking with you this week.
It's been lovely speaking with you this week as well, Kerry. Thank you very much. And to all of the viewers out there, thank you for continuing to support our journey. For those of you that want to listen to us on podcasts as well, I'm aware that YouTube doesn't, when you lock a device, it doesn't continue to play the audio, but we do release on Spotify. I've had a few comments asking about Spotify. So these episodes all go out on Spotify at 8 p.m. on the Wednesday after release on Tuesdays on YouTube. So there's not a lot else to say as the Kerry, but goodbye to everybody. Thank you for joining us, and we'll catch you next week. Bye.